Hello, hello, welcome back. Today we are discussing episode 34 of the Dicely campaign, Mr. Armani Caine. The party is getting ready to leave Brulbar, but before we go, we decide we need to pick up a couple of things before we take flight. Namely, some Featherfall tokens, just in case. We also resupply on health potions, and then we head towards our ship. We get there and we meet Malcolm Humero, the captain of this airship. He's like a little bit too obsessed with his ship, to be honest. As we get on board and start to explore the ship, Drac also makes friends with a Nyx Domino. Nyx explains that he's hired protection from DNR and seems to just kind of not love Gideon right off the bat. We will come back to him in a minute. Elowen and Nell also explore the ship on their own. We end up in the bottom hull and we find this large tube that extends from the bottom all the way up to the balloon at the top. It seems like the power source for the ship is contained within this tube, so Elowen goes and takes a look in the small window that exists. And we find what we think is an air elemental kind of swirling around inside. It doesn't seem happy to be there. And we do confirm with Denny that air elementals are creatures of nature, and nature is chaos and wild, and they probably don't love to be contained in metal tubes. It's probably for the best that Azaria didn't see this, because it's kind of concerning. As the airship takes off, the group continues to kind of just explore around. There's a lot of conversations that happen. Elowen talks with Abe about what she learned from Walela in the last episode, that Malden is apparently not a god at all. Gideon does attempt to connect with Nyx here in this moment as well. It continues to not go very well. Nyx seems to know him, but doesn't seem to like him, which is a concern because Gideon has a lot of memory issues. There's a big section of time that Gideon doesn't remember anything about. He might have done something in the past to have slighted this guy, and we're just kind of at the mercy of trying to figure out what that is. Nell is also having some hard times now that we're making our way back towards her hometown. We're going to be in New Fugleby first, but after that, we're probably going straight to Varmhall Village, and she hasn't been back since she released wild magic on her family and slowed them all to an incredibly snail-like pace. We spoke with Charity Cozybug a few episodes ago, and she gave Nell a spell scroll of Dispel Magic, the idea being that Nell might be able to go back to her hometown now and use this spell scroll to break the curse, the spell that she's cast upon her family. Nell, already feeling like a burden or a disappointment to the family, is nervous that this isn't going to work and she's just going to let them all down again. Finally, as this night continues on, Abe manages to get Nyx Domino alone. Hopefully get Nyx to start talking a little bit more about his past and what he knows about Gideon. And Abe, ever the charmer, is the one who manages to get some information out of him. Nyx reveals that he has known Gideon by another name, the titular Armani Caine. Gideon Armani used to be known as the Shark Kid in the DNR bounty hunting space. Armani was known for taking all of the bounties set for dead or alive and always bringing his targets in dead. The Shark Kid drawn to blood. He's described as incredibly violent, impulsive. Nyx tells Abe that Armani stole one too many bounties from right under his nose, and the two of them settled their disagreement in a duel, in which Nyx shot and killed Armani Caine. Now that is a concern, because Gideon's not dead, as far as we are aware. And after Abe tells the rest of the group about this, we all go to confront Nyx Domino to try to prove that Gideon isn't this Armani guy. He couldn't be, clearly. That doesn't go totally to plan either, though. Gideon hands over his gun, and Nyx Domino confirms that this is the gun that Armani Caine used to use as well. But Gideon also shows the spot on his chest that Nyx Domino says he shot him, and there's no scar there. So Nyx backs off a little bit. The lack of a scar does seem to calm the situation, at least enough to get us through this night. Well, I mean, kind of get us through the night without being attacked, but not get us through this night emotionally. Because Gideon has a dream. And we all know that Gideon dreams are the best dreams. So Gideon dreams, and this frickin' masterclass in narration from Denny, by the way. You gotta go watch this scene because it's really, really so good. It's spooky, it's eerie, it's makes you hurt in your heart. But Denny, essentially, he describes this Armani Caine, and he asks Gideon, could he really have been this person? Armani Caine, the shark kid? Does he have that kind of hate, that kind of anger in him? Could he be that violent? But then Denny reminds Gideon of everything he's lost. The siblings that have disappeared, the parents that we're still not really sure what's going on there. And it goes unsaid, but I personally thought about him and Bernarda just a few nights before in that warehouse. He shot her point blank in cold blood. She was bad. She betrayed us, certainly, but it was a fairly brutal execution attempt from him. And I think Gideon starts to realize that this could describe him. Denny mentions a town to the east of Balesville, Eldham Town. And he asks Gideon why he's never been there. Almost like there's something subconsciously telling him not to go back. And Denny describes him remembering the feeling of being shot right between the collarbones, right where Nick's domino said. And then Gideon wakes up in a panic. Nell and Abe are there. They comfort him until he goes back to sleep. But I think it's clear that Gideon probably really was this Armani Caine. And that sure does open a whole can of worms. It's, I think, pretty quiet the rest of the flight. Team is thinking, the team is preparing for what we're coming up to next. And one morning, just a few hours before we're supposed to land in New Fugleby, suddenly a lurch hits the ship. And Drac blasts the fog out that was around the area the ship was hit and reveals a 3-headed bug, just like those bugs we have fought a number of times before now. But 3-headed this time, that's new. Smaller bugs, like the ones we actually have seen before, crawl up over the edge of the ship and come scurrying onto the main deck. And we fight them off. Nick's domino is not very helpful for how big of a game he talks. He doesn't seem to be really very good at his job. But it doesn't really matter because Abe is a frickin' machine and just destroys these monsters now. The fight goes relatively well for us. I think most of us end up fairly unscathed. The interesting thing that happens during this, though, is that the sai that we took from Sarze and we've been keeping in our bag of holding magically works its way outside of that bag and throws itself off the edge of the ship, plummeting into the mountains below. Sarze, and by extension probably Kardrak Nithralcoat, are definitely working with these bugs, which I think we thought we knew before, but this confirms that suspicion for us. The circumstances of the sai getting out of the bag and throwing itself off of the ship are a little suspicious. I can't quite tell if there was like an invisible person there that grabbed the sai or if it was like magically removed. Anywho, that's kind of the end of this episode. We learned a whole lot about Gideon, and we're moving right into the area of the map where all of this is going to become very relevant very quickly. So, stay tuned. You can catch episode 35 live on Twitch at twitch.tv/DicelyDND. We are going on a small break, so the next episode isn't actually going to be until September 25th. And it's going to be an early episode. We're doing it around noon, maybe? I don't know. You can follow DicelyDND on Twitter, on Instagram, and get alerted when we do know the exacts of the situation. Or you can just follow us on Twitch, and then you'll be alerted when we go live as well. So that is all for this time, my friends. I hope you are staying happy, staying kind, and as always, remembering to play dicely. Goodbye!